All right, welcome. This is, as you can see if we show the video right now, this is step 3, promote. And I am really excited about this one because one of my favorite things to do, of course, is just get attention. And I have some very cool case studies that I'm going to share with you today. And promotion is all about getting attention, being able to keep it, and more importantly, how to engage a market to actually show up for your live events. Now remember that this is a lot bigger than just doing sales events. This is a way to use Livecast to create products, to create content, and also just to build a deeper relationship with your audience. Now I'm also going to give you an update on this book. If you recall, in the last segment I talked about how I produced and made this book in 4 days. I'm going to tell you about how I used it because since that time I've been using this book as a way to build an audience. I'm going to talk about some other strategies that you can use as well. So with that, here are some of the things that we're going to be covering today. Interestingly, I actually put the wrong graphic in here. I can't believe it. But there it is. But this is all about getting attention, growing an audience, converting them into attendees, and getting them to show up. And then, of course, I'm going to be answering your questions as well. So I think the key word here, the most important one of all, is getting attention. You have to remember you're in the attention-getting business. And without that, you have no list. You've got no shows, you've got no event, and frankly, you've got no business. And more than ever before, every business that I know of that is successful is focusing on this one key thing. Yes, retention is important too, but you don't get a second chance if you don't know how to get and keep attention. All right? So a few things that we're going to cover today. Some of the places and ways to promote. I've got several audience building case studies that I'm super excited about. Also, how to grow an audience with content, how to get them to show up, and then again, covering the QA. So if you recall, in the last segment, I told you this promotion story, which was with this book, and really it was how I created a campaign in 4 days. And you can see in the image here, the book cover actually changed. This book originally began as a 10-minute talk. I belonged to a mastermind group. I had an idea that I thought would serve this entire group. I wrote a little speech that day and worked, into the evening. I went the next day, I performed it, and in 10 minutes I delivered 25 strategies to be an interview pro and how to get attention, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I then came back, turned it into a training video, which I shared with you, then had it transcribed, then worked with a writer and a designer, and we cranked out all the graphics that you see inside the book, and we published this book in just 4 days. Now, if you'd like to, and we can put this lower third up in right now, which is videointerviewpro.com. That is the link where you can actually get this book for free. You'll get the PDF version and also the infographic. You may have already done that. But I think at the time when I made that video, these are the ways that I decided I was going to use it. Number one was as a list building exercise, doing the crowd grabber at the event that I spoke at in Las Vegas. Next, my goal was to turn this into a mini course that I would either sell or give away, use it as what's known as a tripwire product. And that could easily be a low-cost offer where I could actually teach how to do interviews in addition to what's in here. Now the traffic will be sent to an evergreen livecast. In this case, I'll use it to sell the final version of the Livecast Profit Toolkit and also give it away to high-value interviewers or podcasters. And I would even go so far as to let them co-brand it. One of the things I talked to one of our members about is actually participating and converting this into a different language. So I can't remember how many people I had interested in that, but I know Elaine, for example, is interested in translating this into French. So I can partner up with people. I can do a version in Spanish and French, and maybe if we get a German customer as well. And that way, again, we can spread the word, and this will end up being a multilingual lead generator. Okay? I'm also going to be using it as an affiliate giveaway, which I'll get to in a moment. And as I go through the rest of the training today, this will make a lot of sense. So the key takeaways, and again, we covered this in the last segment, is what can you teach to your ideal audience right now? How can you record that performance? Of course, you can do it with a live cast. You can transcribe any of this content, so it can be repurposed and reused as a video, as an audio, as a book. You can find partners, mainstream media, even use paid ads to just drive and say, hey, download this book, and then put them into a workshop. In my case, I'm going to use it to get people to register for some upcoming live casts. And inside the book, you seed the sale of your product. In other words, you create desire, maybe create discomfort for not having a solution to being able, in this case, maybe I get the reader interested in selling with video. So obviously, the product is going to lead from here to the product. Okay? So the most important takeaway is this all happened in a very short period of time. The final book is only 85 pages. My cost per book is far less than $2 each to have it delivered. I think it's $1.83 from Amazon, so it's cheap as heck. And what's nice is someone can click on the paperback version now. They have it in 2 days. It's all on demand, no risk. So what I want to lead you to, and the biggest lesson for today, which will lead into some attention-getting strategies, is number one, where do you get your ideas and how do you leverage them into content and tools that you can use to get attention, build rapport, create relationships, et cetera, et cetera. So before I get into that, I want to finish one big idea, because part of the reason I told you about this book is the what happened next. So I was just in Las Vegas at the NAB event, and while I was there, I met a lot of partners, a lot of potential partners, and even met with some potential sponsors and advertisers who would be interested in promoting the shows that I'm producing, as well as interested in co-promoting the Livecast Profit Toolkit, which you're a part of. Now, the other thing that I attended was a podcast awards ceremony, and that's where I got this idea. Well, there's a whole bunch of podcasters. A lot of them interview people, and they don't do great interviews because oftentimes they are visually horrible, or they sound horrible, or the person that they're presenting doesn't put their best foot forward. In other words, they're violating one of the 25 rules. So what I talked to some of them about is, hey, how would you like to just give away this book to your entire audience, your viewing or your listening audience, or for that matter, just the people you want to interview, so they don't violate these rules and make you look like a schlub and them look like a schlub too. So I've already got interest in that. The bottom line is this is expanded now. I came up with 8 other book ideas that are very relevant and connected. So that will lead me into this next little segment, which is this idea of a riff toolkit. And what a riff is, it's a topic that you know something about. It's every time you speak, you present, you get asked a series of questions, you might create some stories. Maybe it's a transformational story about one of your clients or customers. Maybe it's something that you've done that led you into the business you're in. But these are repeated stories that you use over and over again. Now, I got this idea from my friend Joe Polish, by the way, and the basic idea is, if you had to just make a little presentation, a speech, appear in an interview, or maybe you're just talking to a client or a customer, whatever it happens to be, you usually draw from these little riffs that you can repeat, and it makes a point, illustrates what you want to do, and usually builds and generates rapport, because we're storytelling creatures and we're story listening creatures as well. So the basic idea behind a riff toolkit is open up a Google Doc. You can do it inside your phone and use Siri. You can just use Google Docs on your computer. But what I do is I just came up with all of the riffs that I know of, that I repeat, I use on stage, I use when I'm speaking to people, again, to illustrate points. So that's what mine looks like. All it is a little table of contents. It's a series of chapter ideas. And my goal and my result is, hey, I can make little videos out of these, out of the riffs. So I'm going to give you some of mine and describe them, and hopefully what I'd encourage you to do is just start writing down some of your own right now, okay? So the basic plan or idea is just think about how you can leverage these ideas, these concepts, these topics in your own business. So here are mine. Number one is you everywhere now. That's one of my riffs where I talk about you should be creating content and distributing it so it can be read, seen, viewed, listened to, heard on any device, anywhere, anytime, on demand. And I talk about how the market is absolutely huge in the order of billions of people worldwide that have mobile phones right now. So I have found that that concept, that idea, that vision is very, very attractive to my clients and customers because everyone, of course, wants attention and they want to know, how do I get my message out there? So that's a riff. And it's something that I can do. I can do a 90-minute speech just on that topic. I can do 3 minutes. And I could even do a 30-second mini commercial. So it's something that you practice. Okay? Another one is the publish and profit idea. Now, this is a good example. I can tell the story, just kind of like I did for you, and I can adjust it for just about any audience on why it's so valuable and important that you should be publishing a book, and how fast and easy it is if you understand the publish and profit formula, which is just 5 easy steps. Okay? So that's something that I've made lots of speeches and I've created products around as well. And that's what's beautiful about riffs is they can turn into products, high value content, relationship content, sales strategies, and they're very reusable. Next, this is one that I haven't leveraged yet, but I have my own personal story of going through cancer. So I called it Cancerpreneur. It's 10 lessons I learned from the gift of cancer. Now you can see what I did there. First of all, it's sort of like how the hell can cancer be a gift? And I made up the word Cancerpreneur, and I registered the domain, et cetera, et cetera. But I've had it in my head for a little while to produce a book on that topic. That's something I could easily send out a notification to my existing lister audience, or I can go out to an audience that knows nothing about who I am. I could go out to the personal development space or the integrative or alternative health space and talk about my journey. And again, I could just do it interview style. I already have. I know what questions people want to ask, and I could easily survey them as well. So again, a powerful riff. This one, again, I already talked about how I wrote, published, and profited from a book in 4 days. I have another one called The Big Lever. It's about understanding what your, how to move big things really fast with minimal effort by understanding influence and persuasion. And I create a metaphor that the Archimedes story about, he said, give me a fulcrum and a lever long enough and I can move the earth, something to that effect. That's the quote. Another one is my 10 by 10 by 4 content creation formula. I have another one called, Hey Mom, I made $1 million in a day, and then I jokingly say in 25 years. So, and there's more. I have another one, Superpowers and Fatal Flaws. It's about understanding what you're great at and what you're not great at. But the list goes on and on. So the point being, I just sat down, I brainstormed these, and I can genuinely say I could go off and make a speech or a presentation very quickly. And when you build your own riff toolkit, you can adapt them for any audience. This becomes your signature speeches. It becomes your signature content. And you can build an entire series of live casts and webinars based upon your riffs. So I'd encourage you right now, as you're watching this, as you're listening, hopefully you started writing down some of your own riffs and put them in a Google Doc. That way you've got a place where they'll always be saved and stored, and you can add to them whenever you've got an idea. And this is something like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and it's like, I got it, I have a new riff. It's a story, it's an idea, it's something like that that I can draw from. All right. So right now I'm going to give you some attention and audience building strategies. Some of them you're probably familiar with, but I think the most important thing of all is in every part of your life, be on the lookout for story. That's a story of someone who's used your product. You, as you've used your product, anything you've ever said or described or talked about that grabs people emotionally. And pay close attention to that. Anytime you've ever had a win, whether it's a sales win or a connection win or a flirt win or whatever it is, the reason why someone got connected to you and felt some sort of a resonance with you is because they liked the story, okay? And those are things that you pay attention to. The more of these live casts you do, the more familiar you are, and they're going to make you a much more effective trainer, teacher, and salesperson as well. So what I'm going to begin with now are the places for me in order of how I would promote and build a list. I'm going to give you a list of them right now. Make sure that this keynote is uploaded when this presentation is done. So if you're watching the replay, you'll be able to click the link below the video, or if you're watching me live right now, I may make a couple tweaks as we go through some of the Q&A today. I always do that. But this is the list of my favorite places to promote and list build, more or less in order. Some of them I kind of do simultaneously and they're conditional, but again, I usually operate from the point of view of if I were starting from scratch today and I had limited assets, limited time, and I had no relationships or connections, what would I do? Okay, so some of these would, the first ones, of course, are dependent upon having some kind of a history or connection or having an existing business. Although in a consulting space, you can start out with square zero with nothing more than a little bit of knowledge and some basic tools. So number one is, of course, existing customers. And the next to that are affiliate partnerships or someone else's customers. Now, when I lump this up, that could also mean if you are a consultant, that would be someone else's customers as well. You'd find someone who has an engaged audience of customers who have a repeat buying cycle. So, you know, if you think about it, once you've built a reputation for yourself, you can go back to your customers over and over again with updates, upgrades, new, improved. You can go back with additional tools and resources that will help them along the way. And if you've been, for example, in my tribe, part of my family for the past, whether it's been a couple months or several years, you know that I am always evolving. I'm always looking for new strategies. And as soon as I figure out what they are, I test them out personally. I get a small group to try them out that I will coach, kind of like what I'm doing with you right now in the Livecast Profit Toolkit. And make sure that the system works, and then create supplemental materials, marketing materials, books, a launch, and make the final product. But this is the whole idea of rapid product creation, and Livecasts enable you to do that better than any other medium that I'm aware of. The key is, if you have some existing customers, your best place is don't think for a second that you're reinventing yourself or you're starting from scratch, unless it's very rare that someone actually is. So that's the key. You probably already have the people you need right now to be very successful using this new channel of marketing and a way to grow it. Next, using interviews. That's borrowed credibility. I'll show you a slide in a moment. But the key thing there is, over the past 10 or so years, the way I've built my own reputation is by finding people who have a tribe, have an audience, and finding an effective way to add value to their lives so that they will, in turn, elevate my visibility. And if you look at my past, where I've got lots of celebrity photos, whether it's the Tony Robbins picture and video, or the Paula Abdul, or, you know, again, all the people that I've worked with over the past few years, all of those began with me offering to help them out with what would be considered a bleeding neck syndrome. In other words, someone has a big pain, I know how to fix it, and I will provide value to them, and then I'll go back and say, I have some ideas that will help your tribe, and I will give them to you. So I add value once, I add value twice, and then they in turn are like, well, what can I do for you? And the answer is, you already did, because you introduced me to your tribe and they are following me now. We all win. I'm providing a service that you weren't before. I solved your bleeding neck, and I'm solving their bleeding neck problem as well. All right, next one, speaking. Can't recommend this enough. As crazy as it sounds, I think live casts are awesome. However, anytime you're out in front and you've got speaking opportunities, do it. If you struggle with speaking, or you've got some big story about how you can't or you shouldn't or whatever it is, I say nonsense. Go to Toastmasters, go to the National Speakers Association, anything, just start to speak. That is the biggest difference. You look at, you know, Bill Gates is an example of someone who is frankly always was a horrible speaker. He's got a horrible voice. He's not very camera, he doesn't have, he hardly has any charisma at all. But he decided to get past his fear and get into a space of service. So I think speaking is incredibly valuable and powerful, and it's a great way to list build. Next, I talk about this all the time. Anytime you can write a book, know that Amazon will give you an author page, and on that page is something called an event page. And when you go, you can actually add live events to your event page, including virtual live events. So it could be a book signing party online. But there's no reason why you can't go in and just create as many events as you want for the whole year on your author page. That gets indexed by Google. It is very, very search engine friendly, and you might as well give your tribe and your buyers another additional way to connect with you. Okay? So again, I've found, and I'll show you why in a couple minutes, including an $11.8 million launch. That all began with a book, and I will shamelessly say I gave this individual the idea that he took and ran with it. Okay? The next one is, if you have an audience, whether it's an audience of 1, 10, 100, 1,000, or 10,000, doing live cast workshops, consultations, sales events, demonstrations, that is a fantastic way to build great content, and as you'll see in one of the case studies, to create reusable sales content, or you can create fantastic podcast content as well. Moving forward, my goal is to be producing all of my new podcasts as live events. Okay, that way I can interact with an audience in real time. Okay, so what you're looking at right now on screen, this is the intro to, and I'm not going to play any video for you. I can certainly share the link inside the member portal, or you can just search online for Mike Koenigs and Peter Diamandis. But this is from an interview that I did with him for his book Bold. And what I can tell you is Peter has lent me his credibility, and I've gained audience, or gained access to his audience, and gained some visible clout as a result of my friendship with Peter. And in this case, I promoted his book to my audience. Okay? Now, anyone who's writing a book, what they want right now is they want access, and they will gladly share their connections and their name when you're helping them sell books. Now, if you're just starting out, don't go after people who are brand new bestsellers right now, who are in the main media eye at the moment, because they're going to go after the big fish first. But if you go after someone who's just fallen off the New York Times bestseller list or came off even an Amazon bestseller list, they're extremely easy to access. They'll gladly lend you access to their knowledge, their know-how, and their wisdom as well. Okay? So the other thing that I've talked about repeatedly, and I'm a huge, huge fan, and when I was at NAB, I used my iPhone 6 Plus. I actually had 2 of them with a selfie stick and that iRig HD microphone, and I shot a bunch of videos. Some of it I'll be sharing with you over the next few weeks, which is some new gear and some equipment and a walkthrough and a tour and that kind of thing. But man, what a great setup it is, and it's a super way to be able to do interviews and demonstrations, and again, make your life a living laboratory for your followers, even if you just have one. Even if you're just starting out, it's a great way to post on social media as well. While I was at the live event at NAB, when I spoke, I used the new app Periscope, which allows you to do essentially live casts from your phone and broadcast them using Twitter. And I actually presented my speech. I put the camera right on a little portable stand, and I spoke into the camera in real time while I did my speech at NAB. So it's just, again, you can broadcast anytime, anywhere, any device, or capture interviews on demand. It's just like take every opportunity you can, especially if you can follow some experts that you're trying to gain access to. Of course, you're familiar with the technology that I invented and now have sold, which is the Instant Customer platform for capturing leads while you're on stage, but using the Crowd Grabber. I just can't recommend it highly enough. It's still one of the most effective marketing tools imaginable. I've used this on practically every stage I've ever spoken on when I have the permission of a producer, and whenever I create a book. Everywhere I go, it's sort of like, hey, would you like a free copy of my book? Text your email address, and bam, now I've got a mobile phone number and an email address from someone who's actually genuinely interested in what I'm giving away. It's a great way to cultivate relationships. Okay, so let me give you the part 2. Again, if I were starting out from scratch, aside from the other list, I would use the riff list that I gave you earlier and make as many content videos and teaser videos as possible and repurpose them into as many formats as possible. Again, that can be podcasts. It can be posted on social media, obviously Facebook. I'd also, if I have an event, I'd put it on Eventbrite and any other event posting sites, Tumblr, blogs, anything. Audio, video, podcast, converting them into books, whatever. Next, I'd go after paid traffic. Historically, and I'll be the first one to say, I am not a paid traffic expert by any stretch or imagination, and this is what is important. You don't have to do all of these well to be very successful. The vast majority of my businesses have been built on the top 3 or 4 that I shared with you earlier, which is affiliate partnerships and relationships, speaking, and then my books. And if I were just starting out from scratch and I had nothing else, that's what I'd focus on those again, because they're the fastest and easiest. In fact, I am as I launch my next business. Okay. Also, traditional media and PR. Cannot recommend getting out. Again, a book gives you access to that. Having a podcast or a show is also access to the media. They want to cover people who, if they aren't celebrities, they seem like celebrities to an audience. And it's relatively easy to get good PR and get your press releases broadcast all over the place. And then finally, and I don't necessarily say this is the last on the list, because I really, really like it a lot. The truth is, it's one of those things that I rarely get around to, but it's so easy to record your book as an audio or a video, and then put your content on iTunes, and then use Amazon ACX, which will deliver it on Amazon, on Audible, as well as iTunes for you. Okay, so that'd be the audio version of your book, but you can also convert your videos into audios as well. So those are the key areas that I focus on right now. You certainly, in the area of paid traffic, you could buy lists. I don't know a lot of people who consistently win at that. Same is true with direct mail. Direct mail is extremely effective, but you need to get coaching and some training from people who really, really understand and know it well. So right now, I'm going to just poke my head in here. I want to encourage you at any time, submit any questions or comments you have, anything at all that I can cover. I see Elaine is in here right now, and he's posting some comments. Anything you have, feel free, drop them in while I go through this, because I can assure you that as I go through the case studies, you will have some questions. So the first one that I'm going to share with you right now is my friend Anik Singhal. I've known Anik for about 10 years. He is an online marketer, and he teaches, for the most part, I'd say basic online marketing skills. So he's going after a wider audience. And he recently did an $11.8 million launch. And although I won't directly take credit, I will tell you that he was originally planning on doing just a traditional launch. And when I gave him a couple ideas, he dumped the launch. In fact, he broke my model and made it better. But he used the book giveaway strategy combined with a series of a week-long set of workshops. So let me show you some opt-in pages, because I just want to show you what this whole thing looked like. So the first thing he did is he went back and he wrote a book called The Circle of Profit, How to Turn Your Passion into $1 Million. And you can see there's a little stamp in the top left-hand corner that says free bonus. And essentially he's saying there's a workshop. But his lead capture page, although forgive the ding@dong.com, that is my secret special. After I've opted into a page and I have to do a forced opt-in, that's what I usually enter. Anyway, his opt-in page was really simple. Just click free instant access, enter your contact information, and then he sends you to a page that once again he did much better than what we've done in the past, but it's quite nice where you can see across the top here there's a video that starts playing, and it's really kind of a video about Anik. He's got some social sharing on the left. You can see across the top there's some navigation, and then a place where you can download the PDF, and then you can see option 2, download Kindle version. Now, even though he put price $199 and instant access, he still got the exact same click-to-sale conversions that we see, which is 33 or 34%. It was right in between those two, about 34% overall. So the idea of using a book as a lead generator seems to work the best. It has the highest value over a PDF report or just a free video series or whatever. And as soon as someone opts in, they can download the thing just as you promised or get the Kindle book. The only thing that I'd change here is I wouldn't say the price. I'd say download Kindle version. I'd just do the icon like he did and click instant access because it's an impulse buy, but the $199 I think reduces the impulse buy. I don't remember why he made his price $199. It might be because the book was a little too long to qualify as a 99 center. But I like to make my Kindle book a absolute no-brainer. That's why during a launch sequence I make it 99 cents because my goal is to push that thing to #1 as fast as possible. So I've got the ability to say, yeah, I'm an 8-time #1 best-selling author. Now I'm going to advance to this. I'm scrolling up the screen right now. So the next thing you see, if we go full screen, is you see the two authority figures who are giving testimonials for Anik, followed by, you can see step 2, free profit workshop training. He has a value, the dates, and then he has a countdown timer that was running. Now below there, mark your calendars, and he's got training 1, 2, 3, so something different on each one. These were all-day live casts, and believe it or not, he ended up doing, I think he beat my record. He did, one of his events was 15 hours long, and it was basically him answering the same questions over and over again, running through his offer. Okay, so if we go back to the screen, got the button that says save my free seat now, click the link, boom, it opens up with a little pop-up. And then below that, step 3, win an iPad Air 2, so he was giving away some prizes. We always do prizes on our live casts. And then he's got a place for social proof where people left their comments, and you can see there were over 3,159 comments. So that was just one long page. So if we go back to the top, the one thing that he adjusted is he originally did make a second video, which sort of pre-framed or pre-indoctrinated the audience. He said now he wouldn't even do that. He'd just say opt-in, book, workshops. That's it. And now that he's done that and had such good success, I'm actually using this model. I am probably not going to do a traditional launch the next time around with the 4 video series because frankly it's expensive and an enormous amount of work. I'd rather put the effort into doing some live events and create scarcity. And the basic idea is I can say, look, this is a one-time live event, and there aren't going to be any replays or recordings made available. So you can attend it live, or it's going to go away. That way, that urgency and that scarcity is going to get people to actually show up. Okay? So over here, you can see all his entire show is him standing in front of a monitor, going through the program, talking about it, and giving people an opportunity to buy it. It's pretty darn simple. So pretty impressive, though. With results, you just can't complain when you've got $11.8 million in gross revenues. Now that's spread out over a period of time. It's not like all that went in the bank right away, but it's still pretty astonishing in terms of gross sales numbers. So a few things about what made it work. I've covered most of those already. I think giving away a book as a lead generator, fantastic, and then doing some workshops, another great one. All of his traffic came from affiliate partners who promoted him, and he paid them 50% commissions. But it was his first time he'd ever done a live cast. I got to give him a lot of credit. He did study some of my past recordings, and he modeled the best stuff And frankly, he made it better, which the good news is he was able to share all this with me, and I'm in the process right now trying to line up an interview with him, and we'll get a little more in depth. But simplicity is the key to that. I think his pages were nice and simple, beautiful looking. They'd be easy to knock off. And again, I'll make sure that I provide the keynote slides, or the PDF rather, inside the portal so you can model these yourself. All right? So case study number 2 is JJ Virgin and Partners. And this is the series of partners here. There were a total of 9 of us. We did a back-to-back show that was the equivalent of 9 PBS specials. So everyone did the equivalent of a TED Talk. They did Q&A in interview style, or a demonstration in a kitchen. And you'll notice that the word network shows up. So everyone went to this page, which was healthnetworklive, I believe, .com is the domain. That's what the opt-in page looks like. And that thing converted at 73.8%, which is astonishingly high. That means for every 100 people went there, 73% opted in. And it was just click, get my spot now. Really simple. There's JJ and I in the studio, and she ended up giving away one of her key products as a bundle offer. So what we did is, our target audience were working moms. We produced these shows and ran them during the day, and we converted nearly half of the viewers into buyers. Now, yes, JJ is accomplished on television. She's really sat down and spent time studying and learning the process of doing live casts over the past year. Really, she's an incredible student, and she's not afraid to work really, really hard. And that's obvious. Anyone who's been on TV as much as she has, and written as many books as she has, and run a business, and been on PBS, she works her tail off. Okay. There we are in the kitchen set, which is nothing more than a butcher block table pushed against a white background and lit with a single camera. Actually, there's 2 cameras because we did close-ups. Simple, simple, simple. This could be done with Wirecast, frankly. Then we had, for example, some other guests. So this is Nalini Chilkov would come in. We gave away her book as one of the gifts. JJ interviewed one of the guys who did her diet. He also is one of the sponsors of the show. There's another guest that she had on. So here's the business model. I'll explain this to you. This is an affiliate-driven model. What we did is, every single one of these doctors and experts all paid a fee, which I can't disclose right now just due to my agreement with JJ, but it wasn't an enormous amount of money, but they paid a fee to participate in this project. So it covered all the cost of producing a show. Each one of them presented for anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes or so. Everyone contributed a product to put into a group offer, which sold for $97. So when you bought the product, you got actually 9 products for one small price, which was $97. And as a result, with all these partners, everyone had a requirement to mail this offer 3 times, or mail the live cast 3 times to their entire list. So as a result, we generated 30,000 opt-ins. You can see here, 8,200 viewers at our peak, around 5,200 most of the time. By the time the day ended, we had 2,530 buyers, which is $245,000 in revenue. We did another replay that brought it up to 3,087 buyers, so a little over 500 more. We added another 50,000 in revenue. And again, that's a direct-to-consumer audience. So I think the key reasons why this works so well is, A, we found some experts. They all mailed and promoted, so we didn't have the cost of marketing and buying clicks and ads, which increased our risk. Everyone who promoted got 50% of the revenue their audience generated. In other words, they promoted this thing, they got cookied as an affiliate and made money. Then I ended up doing, the way my deal worked is, I got paid a percentage, well, some of the money that each person paid in to cover the cost of the studio rental, and then I took a percentage of sales between JJ and I. So what's beautiful about this is a model that in one of the bonuses when I talk about how to do this with other experts, I'll get into the details a little bit deeper and also share with you how I calculate and predict income, which is interestingly very predictable. So I loved it because I'm able to work with some big experts. Now, that's not necessarily something that you can do right away if you're a total noob. You certainly want to practice on some smaller, what I'd call B and C tier talent at first if you're just beginning. But this is an extremely viable business, in my opinion. Okay? Case study number 3. This one's pretty simple. John Assaraf has been coming into the studio. In fact, he's scheduled to do another one. He records brain-a-thons. There are interviews with other experts about the brain, does a show. It's 8 hours long, promotes it to his own list, and uses Facebook traffic almost exclusively. Now they're starting to buy traffic from other places. And then what he does is he replays his show with live interactive chat, and again, buys traffic. So right now he's getting between, for every dollar he spends, he's getting between $3 and $5 back every time he's rerunning his show. So the beauty is, if you can perform a show with interviews, with demonstrations, with experts, or whatever it is, and you know that thing makes money, then your business becomes a math problem, which is how much you spend on advertising and how much you get back. And it's just rinse and repeat. John right now is in the process. He will have 8 shows running continually, year-round, every single week by the end of the year. And right now he's up to 5. So this is where he's focusing all of his attention. Again, very viable, I believe, in any market. I think it's very viable as a business doing it for other people. I think it's very viable for any business. Okay? So I think the key thing that makes it work is this is essentially a long format or ultra long format infomercial that's running continually with live interactive chat and a replay of the video. And by the way, they're very straightforward and say this is a replay, but it has live interactive chat. He just needs one person who manages the chat on those days that that show is running. Beautiful, beautiful model. Case study number 4. This is one of my favorites. It's Traffic Geyser 2.0, which was done about a year ago. And this was a hybrid of a traditional launch with a live cast, which has essentially been our model for several years, which this one, again, you'd opt in, you'd get the book. So you'd type in your email address, click the button, and then the opt-in page looked like this. This is the other, so we had 2 opt-ins. That's one, this is another one. This one converts at 62%. So it's picture of book, big headline, button, simple, okay? The page that we drive to, again, this is something that Anik modeled, which is step 1, click the like. Step 2, download. He made it, in my opinion, better. And in this case, we just start playing video number 1 of the launch series. There's a link to get the Kindle version, a link to get the paperback version. And what's great about it is this is the first time, actually the second time I really, no, I think about it, it's actually the 3rd time I used this strategy to push a book to #1 bestseller by giving it away, and you can see what the sales were like. That in itself was absolutely astonishing. But this consistently works. I haven't had it not work yet. And the beauty, again, is this. And by the way, the live cast on the last day produced over $1 million in sales revenue for the business. So the thing that made it work, again, is book as a giveaway, launch sequence, which we would say, the term we say is indoctrinate the viewer, whether they watch part of the first video and none of the others, or all the videos back to back. The key is get people interested enough so they show up for the live virtual event, because that's where the sales get made. And that's across the board. Every single person I know of right now that is doing live casts, that is the one thing they all have in common. It's my opinion that if you have launch videos created, you will have better indoctrination. Your audience will show up more qualified and more interested in your product for your live casts. However, I'm going to be testing that out and seeing if I, in fact, find that to be absolutely true. So I'm going to just do a quick check with some comments here, see if there's any other questions that are rolling in. Again, I'll be doing questions at the very end. Okay, just a few. So a few things about content delivery and the lead capture services. So these are some of the services that I recommend and I use myself. There's lots of them. Instant Customer, again, just to be clear, I sold the business. I'm no longer affiliated or associated with Traffic Guys or Instant Customer. My contract is done. I still have a relationship with the business, meaning I use it. And of course, I'm the creator, so I've got skin in the game. But I just want you to know that. I'm using Instant Customer, though, for my lead capture, my follow-up, and we're putting our events on Instant Customer pages. Just because I know how well it can scale, and it can take on a large volume of simultaneous viewers. People like JJ John Assaraf are using it without it blowing up. Next in line, Webinar Jam. The nice thing about Webinar Jam is you can capture leads, you can follow up, and it's clearly an affordable solution. The only rub with Webinar Jam, in my opinion, and I know Mike and Andy, so I say this, is and this isn't any big secret, they're using Google Hangouts technology, which is still not super stable, and it is browser-based, which means if something goes wrong with your web browser or it hangs up or some sort of glitchy thing happens, you can literally, your whole webinar can kind of blow up and not work, and it's hard to get it running again. And the Google Hangouts video and audio services can be shaky at times. Okay? So another thing that can be used for capturing leads is leadpages.net, ClickFunnels by Russell Brunson. Also, what I'm doing right now, I'm delivering this content when I'm producing it live inside Kajabi, and I am using YouTube Live. But for lead capture, I use a variety of different autoresponders all the time. So I use Instant Customer for a lot of stuff. I also use tools like Aweber, iContact. We're actually dabbling with Infusionsoft right now as well. So I am software and product agnostic, just because I believe in using the right tool for the right application. Okay? So before I get into the Q&A here, a couple of action items for you. The first one is, highly recommend you start your Riff Toolkit. Start writing down as many ideas as you can. Start making a list of influencers who already have engaged audiences and meet them. Okay? If you want to build an audience fast with the lowest risk and lowest out-of-pocket costs, do affiliate and joint venture relationship partners unless you have invested and understand paid traffic or have access to some paid traffic sources that you know you can convert. I believe in using your ideas. Again, use your riffs and create some content that will appeal to someone else's audience. And again, interview, collect as many stories as you can. Look for stories everywhere you go and just grow your list in every way possible. I gave you a list of a dozen ways that I use and have worked for me. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it's work. Yes, you're always hustling for lists. They don't come for free. You either got to buy it or you got to borrow them. I do believe it's a slower road, but it's the most beautiful and stable out of this is if you can have the discipline to create consistent content. Doing live casts that are turned into podcasts is a beautiful, fantastic way. And once you've got a podcast that's rolling, get involved in the podcast community. There's awards that are given away. There's niches. You can do what John Cody did with his Healthcare Elsewhere podcast, turn it into a book content and become an expert and authority. And what's great about it is if you are a consistent content producer, people come out of the woodwork looking for ways to do partnerships and joint ventures with you, or they're glad to pay you advertising or sponsorship money to gain access to your listening or your viewing audience as well. All right, the other thing, most important, schedule your first event. Remember, none of this is going to happen if you don't schedule some sort of a live cast, even if it's a private live cast for your cat. I don't care, just do some practice, okay? So in our next episode, we're going to do the perform. That's when I'm going to get into some of the psychology, the persuasion. I'm really going to break down and go through a show flow of a real program and explain it to you and describe what's going on. Also deconstruct some prior live casts that I've done. So the goal here is to influence, persuade, entertain, create a show, present your offer, interview guests, and again, how to entertain, engage, and close deals. And then, of course, I'll be doing Q&A. Now, the other thing that I did want to talk to you about today is, if you haven't already done so, let us go to the page that's on my screen right now. Right down here is, when we scroll through, let's see here, I've got to find the critter. We have our live event, and I am going to send you that information. It's actually on the Facebook group, which I don't have on this laptop right now, so I guess we can leave this. I'll make sure you get the link, but I want to make sure that you register for the live physical training. If you're one of the first who qualified for this, you know who you are, and I'll make sure that we get you an email. But we have a limited number of hotel seats available, hotel rooms, and we need to book and get that settled here before our room block runs out. So please register as soon as possible, and again, I'll make sure that that's updated inside the membership site, and you get some links about it as well. So let me just see where we are with some comments right now. And all right. So this is a question from Elaine. He's saying, is the next best move to create my show flow outline for live casting the masterclass? Any thoughts or directions? So I'll tell you, Elaine, that yes, if you can come prepared at the masterclass, and that's one of the things that's going to be happening is, right now, what I am teaching you at this moment is all pre-framing, and I'm teaching content, and I will be teaching more advanced step-by-step versions of what I'm doing now, and it'll be deeper over the course of those 2.5 days, you know, from equipment setup, integration, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can come to the event with a show flow outline, that'll be great. And I'll be releasing some show flow samples that you'll be able to model very shortly as well. So just stand by for that. But that's a really great question. And this is an interesting question. Another one that got asked here is, I succeeded producing my first live casting event for 7 minutes 2 days ago, which is great, using the free version of Wirecast, which is great place to begin. Just testing it out. I had trouble because the connection is bad here in New Zealand. Decided to go low quality. I'm back in Canada in 2 months, and I'll have a good connection. First step check. So congratulations. Just doing your first one is great. I will tell you 2 things. One of them is, if you actually get the real version of Wirecast, you can broadcast, you know, using whatever bandwidth you have. And it is a bummer that you've got a low bandwidth connection, because that's one thing you definitely need. Is you really need about 2 megabits reasonably and realistically to be able to do a halfway decent looking webcast. But what you could also do is do your webcast and Wirecast. When you've got the not free version, it allows you not only to broadcast but also save a video version of your show, and you could do that in higher version, and then you can upload that as a replay without the low quality headache. So that is a key thing, though, is you just have to have a high-speed connection. One thing I can tell you, and again, this may or may not be affordable depending on where you live, but the latest generation of either iPads or iPhones or Android phones have, if you have LTE, 4G LTE in your area, which is very high speed, the connection speed of phones. I know with T-Mobile, for example, in the US, you can get up to 50 to 60 megabit connections, which is insanely fast. That's faster than most cable is running. And it can get expensive, meaning it might cost you, if you did a whole show, it might be $50 or $100. But the connection quality and speed is so high that, if you're selling something that 50 or $100 is nothing, and even in an area where you've got low bandwidth, your mobile speeds might be faster than you can get with a landline or a cable modem in your particular area. And the other thing that Elaine just said is he says he has the first draft of the book in French. So one of the things that I talked to Elaine about is drafting a version of this book in French, because I do want to release it in multiple languages. So that is fantastic, Elaine. I'll have to find someone who can proof it in French. But the goal, again, is find people in your tribe, in your relationship circle, who can help you enter other markets. And that's what Elaine's doing. So he'll be able to leverage this and be he's going to get a credit in the book. And he'll be able to, of course, hopefully use this to approach or connect with people in his market who are French-speaking, who could participate and do interviews with him, or he could maybe borrow some credibility from them and some authority as he grows his audience and his list. So congratulations on that. Fantastic news. So let's see if I've got anything else here. I think, there's a question from Jim who's asking, where are the comments showing up? You're not seeing them. So this is one thing. It is a limitation with Kajabi that you actually have to refresh your page because it doesn't automatically show them. So what you do is just, if you go in right now and refresh your page, you're actually going to see them showing up. So just go ahead and refresh. It will mean that the video might restart. Make sure you don't do that if you have Safari, the Safari browser, because it may force the video to replay and restart. So you want to make sure you do this in Firefox or Chrome or Internet Explorer. I say that with just a little bit of Josh in my voice. So it looks like we're at the tail end here of the comments. So here's what I'm going to just suggest we do as we get ready for step number 4, which is perform. Number 1, start brainstorming again. Go through, get your riffs put together, and start thinking about what kind of content you can use as attraction to either get paid traffic, social media traffic using the strategies. I will be posting this keynote presentation, the PDF, with this video so you can review it again. I will give you an update very soon. I'm going to be doing a bonus training on just tech. I've been chatting with a few members who have some additional questions, and I'd love to get you up to speed and make sure that you're using the tools and resources before the actual master class so I can, again, provide some feedback. And again, my goal is to make sure that you're able to do a couple of shows and start using these tools either to create content, generate traffic, make some money, create some products, or whatever it is that your outcome and your goal is with the Livecast Profit Toolkit. So with that, I'm going to end this segment. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for the great questions. Go ahead, if you're watching this and it's a replay, go ahead and post questions. I'll be monitoring the membership site, and I'll also be working on the next few modules. And remember, there's a lot more to come. And because you're in this program and you got in early, you get the final version as well. So think of this as pre-training. My goal is to make sure that you are taken care of and you're learning the psychology and the technology and the know-how you need to put on some great shows. So this is it. My name is Mike Koenigs. Thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor and a privilege to be working with you, and I can't wait until we are together in the next training. Bye-bye.